You're watching On Second Thought.
I'm Ted Gunderson, former head of the FBI in Southern California. I've furnished considerable information to B.J. Wagner. If you want the full story, you want to know what's going on, watch B.J. Wagner.
Welcome to On Second Thought. I am Brianna Moore, co-hosting today. Thank you for joining us where William J. Wagner gives you reason to have second thoughts. And now for the host and producer, the good guy in the white hat, William J. Wagner.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I am William Wagner. My first guest here today, Jack Alpan, dentist and doctor, teacher, author. And Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you, William.
What have you got for us today?
Well, this is a consummation of 38 years of research. It's the hidden code in the United States Constitution. On the top of it, it says, "Who are we the people?"
Right.
And in my book, The Hidden Code to the U.S. Constitution, the answer is given. It's not what you think are we the people, based on what you've just been saying. And we the people did not write the U.S. Constitution in 1787. In fact, the second question on the DVD says, why was the U.S. Constitution written in secret proceedings in 1787?
Well, I think that's because the founders feared the people might be upset if they knew what was being written. They were afraid the rabble-rousers would overthrow them before they could establish anything. Am I wrong?
No, you're wrong. The reason that it was done in secret is because there was something hidden that they didn't want the American people to know about the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution was written mostly by lawyers. Lawyers who were very well educated at Princeton and Yale and all the Eastern colleges way back in 1787.
The Brahmins.
And their goal and their purpose, which was the secret, that's why I have on here top secret on there. Their goal was to create a document that would convert the men, women, and children who in nature are created under the laws of nature by God, for those who believe in God, and with unalienable rights, as we have come to understand that through the ages. Those are God-given or natural law rights given to man. Well, that's what those people had in the colonies after they kicked King George out of the colonies. They fought 90,000 out of 3 million. That's only 3% of the population fought against the rule of the king, of the monarchy.
Most of them sat on their hands and tried to stay out of it, didn't they?
Most of them were still sympathetic and really didn't want to fight against the king. Even the leaders, really, the so-called founders of our country, really did not want to break away from England. They wanted to resolve their differences. But it was Thomas Paine, who was an Englishman, who wrote the original Declaration of Independence, which was then modified by Jefferson and actually emasculated to a great degree. But he was the one that inspired those few 90,000 people to take arms and put themselves in harm's way to establish a new form of what he had talked about in the Declaration of Independence as self-government versus being ruled by a monarch. And so they won their battle. 1783, the Treaty of Peace was signed, and from that year until 1787, only 4 years, the men, women, and children were sovereign. And in my book, I spelled the word sovereign S-O-V-R-A-N to distinguish it from the word S-O-V-R-E-I-G-N, which is defined in all the dictionaries as a ruler or a British coin. But those men were sovereign, and they had inalienable God-given rights that could not be taken away. But what the U.S. Constitution was written, it was written in secret proceedings because those lawyers wanted to convert men, women, and children created under natural law into citizens of, the word of is defined as derived from, created by the state, citizens of the United States of America. So that document was a legal law conversion of inalienable, sovereign human beings, self-ruling men, women, and children, converting them into citizen subject slaves.
Only now they were subject to Congress and the president instead of King George.
Right. So basically all they did was change who was ruling them, okay? They thought they were going to rule themselves. Well, John Adams never, ever believed that the people could rule themselves. In his article that he wrote in defense of the Constitution, he said the people are not capable of ruling themselves. And a lot of those people who wrote that Constitution felt the same way. They had no faith in we, the people, as you think of it, as most Americans think of it. We, the people, are the people who wrote it. We, the people who wrote this document, will do these things for our best interest. It has nothing to do with you and me. That's why it's a secret. Okay, that's the secret code. Okay, so the reason I wrote this book is because in 1992 I got involved with Richard McDonald here in California, who started a movement to restore citizens' rights and states' rights. And he was teaching people from coast to coast that it's better to be a state citizen than it is to be a federal citizen, because the 14th Amendment converted state citizens into federal citizens of subject status, whereas state citizens were sovereign. Well, when I started writing my book, originally I started writing my book and I entitled it A Matter of Status. Because when I started writing my book, I immediately turned to the law dictionaries used by our Supreme Court to define the words used in the Constitution. And I looked up the word status. The word status is defined as that condition in which you are found in society which makes you liable to pay taxes. Now, Aaron Russo just recently made a film that says that that there is no law that requires an American citizen to file and pay taxes. Well, that is not true. Because when the U.S. Constitution was written, okay, it created a citizen subject slave from a sovereign man, woman, and child. It was a legal document that made a legal conversion in law. And so from the day that the U.S. Constitution was written, there has never been an American citizen who calls himself a citizen of, created by the United States, which is a corporation. There never has been a sovereign man, woman, or child. Every citizen of the United States is of subject status, is a subject, slave, created by the government. No, you have to read my book, because in here I gradually explain little by little how this all came about. The word status, and that's why I named my book first in 1997, I called it A Matter of Status. Because it is your status in society that determines whether you are a taxpayer or not. And that status is determined by this document called the U.S. Constitution. Now, I call it the U.S. Con. because it is the greatest con